welcome back to another video. And today, I'm taking a look at the Dune Awakening Direct Showcase. Now, as you guys know, sometimes, from time to time, I will react to other games. There's a little series I have on this channel called a Star Citizen Player Reacts. And, yeah, I've taken a look at this game's trailer in the past before, but we really didn't have anything to kind of go off of from that first trailer. So now, apparently, they're doing a full showcase, just like the Starfield showcase. And this is about a half an hour here, and we're just gonna take a look at it. I have a lot of questions about this game. As you guys may know, that in 2016, CIG had a gameplay trailer. They kind of went through their uh, CitizenCon, and they showed off Sandworm in their demo. And ever since, the whole Sandworm fiasco started, and in the Star Citizen community, there are a lot of Dune fans. CIG recently, they were supposed to have Star Citizen Live, and they let the team go out early so they can all go to the movies and watch it. And they even, posted on their social media the Pico Penguin looking at the Sandworm. So again, like, there are a lot of Dune fans who are fans, players of Star Citizen. So uh, I feel like there's a few crossover, maybe from my community, people who might be interested in this game. So I figured it makes sense to look at it. Now, as you guys may know, the second installment, the second movie, is out in theaters right now. I did go and see it over the weekend. It is a very interesting movie. I do have books. The franchise is, very unique. It is going to get more interesting. The way they set it up, they're obviously going to do more movies. A lot of people have said that they like this movie, the second movie, more than the first one. So I highly recommend going and seeing it in theaters if you're a fan of the books, if you like sci-fi, if you're not afraid of, more darker storylines. It is a spectacle, to say the least. So now, without further ado, let's just get right into this video and let's see what Dune Awakening is gonna be like. Okay. I'm assuming this is gameplay. Okay. And there it is. There it is. Right at the start, they show us the Sandworm. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the very first Dune Awakening Direct, a brand new series where we'll be taking a look at all things Dune Awakening from our studio here on Arrakis. On this episode, we'll be chatting to Joel Bylos. He's the Chief Creative Officer for Dune Awakening here at Funcom, and he will tell us what players can look forward to this year, and he will share some news about our beta testing phase. Then
Okay, so this game is being developed by Funcom. I believe the studio behind the Conan MMO. So they do have experience making other MMOs. This is not their first game.
We'll also be taking a look at the brand new gameplay trailer that we're just so excited to share with you all. But first, we'll look at what it takes to bring the most dangerous planet in the universe to life, from book to film to video game. Let's get started with creating worlds.
Okay.
Arrakis is this unrelenting anvil against which people are beaten and shaped and forged into something that's stronger.
There's something very spiritual about that sand, which on the surface is really nothing, but underneath has a really diverse.
Okay, these are scenes from the second movie.
One of my favorite lines from Frank Herbert is, when you end a novel, it's like a train coming into the station that doesn't stop.
This is in game.
The brakes and let the sparks fly into people's imagination.
Whoa! You see that? That looks. There's a tank. Where is it?
Like a train coming into the station that doesn't
It's all
stop.
in game.
You just jam on the brake.
Right there. This looks kind of familiar.
And let the sparks fly into people's imagination.
Okay, very cool visuals. I like it. I like it. So this is kind of like the behind the scenes, the making of the game, I guess. You're gonna tell us how
Arrakis
they
is a
developed
test,
it.
is what the Fremen say, and the player comes right into the heart of that test. Dune Awakening is a survival game at the base level, and it begins like a traditional survival game. You know, like you're looking for water, you're looking for shelter.
Okay.
You know, where will you find water in the desert? Will you take it from others? So when we talk about survival, sure, we start with the basic kind of survive. And then when you've survived long enough, it's now time to think about political survival and how you progress within the universe.
Okay. So this is one of the things,
approach we take when
the kind of big things that is kind of interesting is, one of the questions I have about this game is like, where does it take place in the timeline of the story? Because as a lot of you guys know, there are three main factions, or perhaps four main factions going on. You got the Fremen, you've got the Emperor and the Sadukar, you've got the Harkonnen, and then of course you have the Atreides. So is it a kind of faction based game where you have to pick what faction you are playing with, or are you some kind of smuggler or freelancer? Like, what is the premise of the game? When does it take place? How does all that play out? I that's a big question I have about this. As an MMO, again, if it was a single player story game, it would be a little bit different. But as an MMO, how do you have that longevity?
Building a world like Arrakis is we kind of have to think about where are the stark lines and how do we draw these epic spaces? How do we make them feel huge and the player feels dwarfed by everything they see around them?
The intention was every time we saw the desert, it was highly brutal, and if you went out into the desert without the right protection and without the right knowledge, that it was sure death. If we looked at references from some of the hottest deserts in the world, the visuals that we saw from those deserts weren't enough. We needed this world to be even harsher.
So we've been working with Legendary since
it's from the movie.
They've been very generous
It's
with
in the
sharing
game.
with us assets from the film. And
The game looks really good. I gotta say that the visuals
allowing
look
us to
pretty
really
good.
understand the vision that Denis Villeneuve has for the world and his characters and the way he's grounding Arrakis. But of course, a game is a much larger scale, so we need to expand upon that vision. We have our own army of concept artists who are sending things back and forth with Legendary all the time. One of my best moments on this project so far actually was I got to go and visit the set of the first film with a group of the people from Funcom, the art directors, the lead artists,
Okay.
and we got to walk around in the actual sets that they had built in classic old school set building, massive palaces. And we got to look at the ornithopters
it's from the
inside
first
and
movie.
the outside, right? We got to walk around them and get
That's
a
very
sense
cool.
of their scale.
Well, I think what they had done really well is they'd been quite inspired by the world that we had built in Dune Part 1. Now, in a film, you're sort of led on a journey by the director and by the script, whereas in a game, you have the opportunity to sort of create your own narrative.
It's like a
and create
crash
your own
ship.
journey. The most exciting aspect for me is the fact that you can take what you've enjoyed and loved, and you can build your own stories and your own places. And that to me is the ultimate goal, is to have, complete control.
Using Unreal 5 to create a game is obviously one of the better choices. Unreal 5 gives us flexibility through the blueprinting system. It allows us to handle amazing graphics through the rendering system, the lighting system such as Lumen. Lumen technology allows proper light bouncing. If I had to say one thing in the game that really benefits from Lumen, it's player crafted spaces. In our case, it's like you build a room and you place a window, and the window lets in natural light, and the light will fill the room in a way that
Okay,
feels
so wait a minute. This is another thing that they kind of confirmed, is that there will be base building in this game. So I'm assuming that all of these spaces that we're seeing now are player constructible.
real. And that technology hasn't existed before. Before Unreal 5, in the olden days, you had to use what we called the LOD system. And that meant that you had to create assets at different LOD levels.
That's one of the things, even with Unreal 5, it doesn't completely, erase the need for having LODs in the game. You know, obviously, if you have like a player character or player character outfits, different weapons, ships and vehicles, those things will definitely still need level of detail, you know, assets made for them. But for things like trees and mountains and rocks and clouds and stuff like that, nanite is a, you know, huge advantage in Unreal Engine 5. So you don't have to make LODs for these really visually intense things, these massive assets that take up huge portion of the map. So by that standpoint, yeah, I think them making this game in Unreal Engine 5 is just obviously a great decision. But you know, level of detail, that stuff is still necessary, and I'm sure they're still using it in the game as well. But for things like what they're showing you on screen here, these rocks, it makes a huge difference to be able to have that stuff in nanite.
So it doesn't slow down everybody's computer. With Unreal 5, we have this new technology called nanite that breaks things down into the right amount of polygons at the right distance. So for us, as a company, this has made an amazing difference to the visual detail of the world. It allows us to create one really amazing looking cliff
awesome,
piece, for
you know?
example. And then doesn't matter how far away or how close we place it, it performs well and it looks great.
Where Unreal worked for us on Dune was that it was a fantastic pre-production and planning tool. On Dune Part 2, we had some very complicated scenes, and we were able to previs all the way from Budapest what the light was going to be doing well in advance.
This is like a promotion for Unreal Engine 5.
I would say in my 25 years of shooting, that is.
I mean, it's a really good game.
Spectrum of films,
you know,
by
they use it on movies and stuff too. That's basically what they're showing you here. It's not just the game.
Iconic
they use it in the movie too.
In the Dune universe, is the Sandworm of Arrakis.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to represent this in the game in multiple ways. So as a player, your first steps on the open sand, you hear the hiss of the sand in the distance as the sandworm begins to move towards you.
Okay.
And when it gets close, you hear the roar as it erupts from the sand nearby. And at that point, you have only seconds to live if you cannot make it to rocky ground. So this is your first experience with sandworms. And these are the little ones. When you go into the deep desert, when you're harvesting spice.
This is from the movie.
The giant ring-mouth sandworms that we've seen in the film will erupt underneath the spice blows and suck harvesters and equipment down into the sand beneath them. There's really only one rule. The sandworm will always come.
Okay.
Humans have always had this innate drive to create something, to build worlds, whether it's in their head, whether it's in text, whether it's on screens, whether it's in games. Funcom as a company has been on this journey for a long time, creating multiplayer worlds where players can live out their dreams and fantasies. We were there in the beginning with massively multiplayer online games. We've been there in the beginning with survival open world crafting games. And Dune is a combination of those legacies, bringing us forward into the future. It's the culmination of what Funcom means as a company and what we can deliver. And this legacy means that we need to really pay attention to what we're creating and how we create it.
Okay, some more vehicles.
Because I think at the heart of this, there's a lot of people out there who really want to live in the universe that Frank Herbert created. And they really want to live in the visual world of the films that they see from Villeneuve. And so we need to create the gap between those two possibility spaces and create a game world where people can live out their fantasies that they've taken from Dune. And
okay, they got the flamethrower.
And it feels at times extremely overwhelming, but we really hope that we can deliver something for everybody.
Wow, that was great.
I mean, in terms of visuals, it looks like kind of a mix of between the movies and Destiny 2. The armors look kind of like Destiny 2. They don't really look as, you know, like they do in the movies. They look a little bit more sci-fi than the movie armor and gear. The movie armor and gear looks a little bit more weird. It looks a little bit more realistic. This looks a little bit more, you know, sci-fi fantasy. I don't have a problem with the art direction. I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, everything doesn't have to be photorealistic. And I think going for a specific art style is a smart direction.
creating captivating visions on the big screen and the immersive world of games, of course, both certainly come with their own unique set of challenges. And I think it's very clear that both mediums draw deeply from the seminal book that started it all. Now, of course, Villeneuve's movies have mesmerized the audiences with their adaptation of Frank Herbert's masterpiece. It's been showcasing the intricate politics, the very stunning visuals, and the harsh desert of Arrakis. And now, as we venture into the game, the challenges of bringing this rich universe to life really takes on new forms. So, here to share this exciting process with us is Joel Biles, the Chief Creative Officer for Dune Awakening. Joel,
it looks like we're going to get into it now.
Thank you very much for having me. It's exciting.
Okay, so before we get into it, I have some questions that I want to pose and pose to you guys as well, to see if they're going to answer. Of course, not just the timeline. Of course, I think one of the big questions that I have about this game is the monetization, the primary gameplay loops, you know, the PvP, PvE. Is it going to be like a story that you kind of progress through? You know, I want to hear about endgame. You know, I want to hear about I want to hear the questions that I think any MMO player would have for a game like this. What's the structure? How do we play this game? I want to see if they answer those hard questions in this video.
I am so excited that you're here because I get to pick your brain. I have so many questions and I want to dive straight into this.
Yes, we have so many questions.
Dune Awakening is a survival MMO. Two words
everyone
watching will be familiar with. But what's your take on that? What is a survival MMO?
Sure. So survival games are obviously a genre of games about like building yourself up from the bottom and surviving. MMOs are more about social interaction and you know how players work together to achieve big goals. And we thought, why not combine the two? You know, why don't we create a game? Because most of the survival games that are out there, they kind of you once you get to a certain point of survival, it kind of ends, and that's kind of where you've gotten to. But what we thought was like the universe of Dune is a perfect place with these politics and this intrigue and there's machinations that happen. So let's get players hooked on the survival and then bring them into the political survival of the Dune universe.
Okay.
Let's break it down then.
So that seems like what he's saying is that it starts off as survival and you kind of level through that process, and then end game is where you have the faction politics stuff, which I think makes sense. That to me seems like a pretty good progression line. But let's keep going.
And dive a little deeper, starting with the survival part. What are we surviving on Arrakis? What's out there? I mean, worms, yeah?
Sandstorms.
What else?
Other players.
Sandstorms.
Yeah, so the player, I mean, obviously, Arrakis is all about the heat and the water. So the player, first of all, needs to be searching for water. They need to stay out of the sun, stay in black shade during the day.
Okay, what about the still suits? Can we craft still suits? Can we purchase still suits to kind of, you know, recycle the water? If they're talking about, you know, water as a survival mechanism in this game, if your Fremen is that a, you know, if you choose to side with the Fremen faction and you get one of those suits, is that some kind of advantage for joining that faction? I want him to get into it.
Travel by night.
I love it.
That's what the Fremen say, right? That's what the Khitan al-Gaib says it in the book, right? Black shade by day, travel by night. So the player needs to worry about these things. Think about the sunlight. Think about where they are, but they also need water because that runs out really quickly without a still suit, and you die very fast.
So there are still suits
in the game. There's ways in which to get water. You can explore dew fields and eat plant fiber to try and get water out of it. After a while, you start to throw up because you can't really get too much water out of plants that way. And then the more, the way I prefer to do it is to shoot enemies, take their blood, drink that.
Okay, so that's kind of like an interesting thing. Normally, in a PvP game, you come across other players, you take their loot, and that's about it. So in this game, you're also going to be taking the other players' loot, and you're also going to be taking the water to survive. That's kind of interesting because we saw that in the movies. You know, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but water is a commodity, and you can take it from other people. So that is very interesting.
Casually drop that right there. Okay, so we're harvesting blood or just lick some plants, whichever way you choose. You're gonna stay hydrated, which is very important.
Yes.
Yeah, stay hydrated at home, in and out of game. Are there other resources I need to worry about?
Yeah, so as a I mean, it's a proper survival open world crafting game, right? So players will craft their entire arsenal, right? So they'll be collecting resources, you know. They'll be collecting stone, they'll be collecting metals like copper, iron, eventually forging steel, building up the equipment that they have at home. So they'll be crafting, you know, all their weapons, all of their gear, all of their clothing, and they can of course craft themselves a base to live in, craft machines to help them craft bigger machines, which allow them to craft better weapons and so forth.
I like what I'm hearing.
All right, so there's a lot to do, is what I'm hearing. Base building you just mentioned, that's obviously very exciting. I saw you guys shared a sneak peek of what a base could look like already on your TikTok channel. Very cozy. Why would I ever leave a home like that and like head out into the desert? But I'm sure you guys give us plenty of reasons to do just that. Is there anything special about the base building in this game?
Yeah, so we took what we started with in Conan Exiles, our other survival game. We brought that over. Then we started to add to it, right? So we've now created a system for co-op building where you can place out holograms and other players can fill them in. So you work with your friends to build bases. You can also save your base as like an architectural blueprint that you can then sell to other players on the exchange, or you can give to your friends so they.
Okay, so that's kind of like a big giveaway right there. Okay, there is crafting in the game. You can craft with other players. You can make blueprints, and you can sell blueprints. So that means that there's an in-game currency, and there is an in-game marketplace for players to trade with one another. That's kind of interesting for an MMO. Let's keep going. So we'll kind of gain some information here.
Cool. One of the things we saw in Conan Exiles that I really liked was that players were building the Taj Mahal. They were just building really cool buildings, and it's like, what if you could sell that to another player? That'd be cool, right? So another player might want to be able to just buy that blueprint off you and then place that out in the world and build it themselves. So we're really enabling this sharing and sort of the way the building system works, allowing it to be very cool.
How do you make money?
That's incredible.
Just selling stuff that you craft?
Well, I know my story arc is going to be architect who harvests blood occasionally, but you know, you do what you got to do. Now that I have my basic needs all met, you know, I'm staying hydrated in some unkosher ways, and I'm having my base. How do I protect myself and my base from the world? Like, what am I doing for combat here?
So the game has a full leveling system, right? And we do this thing we call combined arms, which is like we have melee, we have ranged, and we have abilities, and we also have vehicles, right? So players can use any combination of these in combat, right? So it's kind of creates this interesting dynamic. So you can learn abilities from the great schools of the universe and learn how to be a Bene Gesserit, compelling your enemies to come close to you so that you can stab them with a knife.
But wait a minute. Does this game have gender locking? Because the Bene Gesserit, you have to be a woman to be Bene Gesserit. Now, it is possible for males in the Dune universe to learn the Bene Gesserit ways. Paul was kind of taught by his mother to, you know, do the voice and all this type of stuff. That's interesting. I want to hear them talk more about this stuff. What's the deal with that?
You know, so you're combining melee with abilities there, right? Or you can be a sword master and leap in with a knee charge, knocking people to the ground and then stabbing them. Or you can choose to be like a trooper and you use your Shigawai reel to pull you up like a grappling hook, to pull you to high places where you can shoot down on your enemies with sniper rifles and shotguns. So there's a large variety of weapons that you can craft through our intricate crafting system, in addition to these abilities that you learn as you level up your character. So you kind of have this freedom of choice, and that's really...
No, yes, the Dune universe does not really have ballistics, but they do have lasers and railgun type weaponry. So there will be, you know, types of guns in this game. Now, they haven't really talked anything about personal shields. I know, of course, swords and knives are a big thing in the Dune universe because of these personal shields. You know, handguns are a lot less effective. But again, you know, if you can have like a laser rifle or something like that, that will give you the ability to do some more ranged combat.
Really what Combined Arms is all about. It's sandbox combat. That's what we're trying to call it and what we're going for, right?
Are those hard locked in classes, or is there like can I explore different skill trees? Like,
yes.
Can I be a swordsman or a swordsmaster and also use the voice? Is that possible?
It's absolutely possible. You just have to find the right trainer in the world who'll teach you these things. So you choose in character creation, you make a choice of who was your mentor when you were young. And then you choose one of the things, and that determines your set of starting abilities. But then when you play the game...
So when you get into the game, it's kind of like Starfield, I guess, where you have these traits, and you pick the traits for your character, and then you go from there. That's kind of interesting, but it makes sense, because of course, you know, you probably can't do, you know, become a navigator or anything like that, because this game, I'm assuming, take place only on Arrakis. But these different skills at the beginning, you know, they might be like classes, and you pick these different traits to develop your own kind of custom class.
Find trainers in the world. That. You have to do things for them, but then they'll eventually teach you some of the way, you know, the path.
And I guess that might be like some kind of mission giver in the game.
That. Okay, so lots of things to explore there as a player, and avenues to take, all in order to protect myself. And maybe my friends, if I feel like it. What am I protecting? Like, how do I protect myself against sandworms? Like, can I fight them? Can I ride them? Like, what's the deal?
Okay, yes. Can we ride sandworms?
I like a tension mechanic in the game. We want you to be really worried every time you walk on the sand. So you really need to think about what you're doing. So there is no way to kill or defeat sandworms.
No,
the only thing you can
cannot.
do, you just cannot. The only thing you can do is avoid the sandworms.
So we cannot kill the sandworms in the game.
So you craft yourself a thumper and place it out to distract a sandworm. Maybe you use it to lure a sandworm onto some friends of yours or some
friends,
depending on how
as
you feel.
One does.
And
now this is kind of an interesting thing, because we know, well, we don't really know anything, but CIG has said that we will be able to ride storm walls. So presumably when sandworms gets added to the game, we might be able to jump on them. Who knows? I don't know. You know, so that is something that I hope they add, is the ability for these sandworms to be more interactable than just, you know, like an in-game event type situation where you just basically have to run from them. I do hope they make it a little bit more interactive than that.
And the other thing you can do, of course, is craft yourself a vehicle. Like, we have a range of vehicles in the game, including the iconic ornithopters, and players will be able to craft these, and you'll be able to use these to, of course, traverse safely, right? If you're in an ornithopter, you fly above. If you're on a sand bike or something like that, you can move quickly across the sand. Hopefully a sandworm won't get you if you time it right.
Okay.
Hopefully, you know.
That's always hoping. I love a constant looming threat. Sounds really stressful. Sounds perfect, actually, for a survival MMO. Now, you already alluded to some of the cooperative things one can do in-game. Can you elaborate a little bit more here, or dive deeper into this? Like,
sure.
Can I, like, fully go on a journey with someone and like do tasks with each other? Like, what can I do with other people?
Yeah, so I mean, hook up with your friends, join together with a grouping system. We have a ping system, so you can, you know, obviously point out things to players. You will find different roles that you can assume based on the kind of combination of abilities you want to bring with you. And then you can heal your friends, of course, get them up when they get knocked down in combat, things like that. Yeah, and then, of course, you go on journeys. Like, we have a system called the journey system. You can go on those journeys together and sort of explore the mystique of the universe. Through that, we also have a contract system. When you go to trade posts, you'll be able to take contracts.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty basic as well.
You can go out and explore and do these contracts together.
Most games have mission boards or whatever.
Play. It's all kind of what you'd expect to see in a social experience.
Okay, guild play.
What's your take on the politics? Because obviously, the books and the movies, that's a big part of it. Like, the whole political intrigue. How predominant is that in the game?
I mean, we want players to be able to dip into it. So you start the game kind of lost in the desert, right? And then by the end of the game, maybe you're the next Baron Harkonnen. So as you play through the game,
and who doesn't want to be him?
He's a good-looking man.
Oh yeah.
As you make your way through the game, you progress and you sort of meet these factions in the world, right? The Atreides and the Harkonnen are at war. There's a war of assassins going on, as it's called. And as a player, you decide which side you want to help, which side you want to join. Then you start to partake in missions for those factions. And eventually, yeah, you work your way up through the ranks of the factions, and maybe you take on a position of power as well. So the politics are, they're designed
really
to actually
interesting. I
encourage
don't know.
players
I don't know how I
to
feel
develop
about
their
that.
own politics around the sandbox systems, right? So we have this Landsrad. The Landsrad will demand that players do certain things. The factions need to work together against each other to achieve these goals, right? So there's also this sandbox element to the politics.
Which also then encourages like co-op play or PvP play more.
Co-op play.
So basically, for the end game, it is basically faction based. So you start off in the game, you're kind of a nobody, and then as you build your base and you're able to survive, you get into the kind of end game politics faction gameplay. Where you get missions, and as you do missions for that faction, you rank up within the faction, and you can get more power and influence. And because it's an MMO, you'll probably be dealing with other players and have influence over other players as well. So presumably, again, I haven't said directly, but I think that that makes sense to have the that big portion of the end game be faction based, whether it's the Harkonnens, Atreides, or perhaps the Fremen.
Or PvP play, yeah. There's this kind of idea that like when people have the same objective but they're on opposite sides, it becomes a race between them to achieve that objective, and they'll do all sorts of dirty things to get to the top, right?
Sounds about right. Can I opt out of politics? Can I just live my peaceful little Swiss life in my cottage?
Absolutely. You can play however you want. I mean, the idea is to be a sandbox and allow people to approach it how they like.
That's good.
We have one of the rules, one of the pillars of the game is expression and customization. And that's not just about visuals, it's customizing how you want to play the game. So it's really thinking about like, well, I really like to craft and just set up my little crafting setup and sell things on the exchange to other players. So you can do that. You can basically live your life as a crafter. You can also be an architect, as we talked about. You can be a pilot, a scout. You're not really heavily involved in the fighting, but you go out and you craft maps that you sell to other players as well of the world.
Okay.
Where are we currently at? Like, I know there've been betas already. How many more of those are coming? When is the next
when's the game
one?
coming?
What's the status of development?
Dune TM.
So we've been running betas now for several months. They've been going really well.
I didn't know
we're
that.
slowly inviting more people over time. So the game, I mean,
how do you get invited to the beta?
Out the door. We're going to work with our community and our players, and we're going to try and make the game as good as it possibly can be.
Takes as long as it takes, man.
It takes as long as it takes, and you got to do it well. So we're working with our community, and betas are continuing right all the way through launch, and we're going to keep increasing the number of people in those betas, helping us stress test, yelling at us.
Betas are going to continue through launch.
Kind of good things.
Okay, I don't know what that
all
means.
The good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, have there been any like recent milestones you're particularly excited about, or anything you want to share about the current development?
Sure. There's a thing as a creative director I like to say that we get a few aces every time we make a project. We get to make a few creative bets. There's a thing called the shifting sands, which is one of my most exciting. One of the things that makes me most excited about the game, and that is this location in the world. It's a full PvP area, and every week the Coriolis.
Okay, so that's kind of another big question I had. Is it going to be, open world PvP, or are they going to be PvP PvE zones? That's kind of interesting. So he basically said that there's a PvP zone. So I think they might have some type of zone system. I know some MMOs have like a flagging system or something like that if you open for PvP or whatever, but it does not seem like it is open world PvP. And we also don't know if it's full loot either, so that's interesting.
There's the landscape of this area, and I got to see that working for the first time very recently with full landscape changing and people able to play, and it's exciting to see these things coming online. And
so it's kind of like weather effects too, is what he's talking about.
So
this PvP area has some kind of storm.
I can't wait to be part of that audience, and I also can't wait to have more opportunities in the future to chat about the development and the process that you and the team are going through. Now, any last words, anything you want to say to your future player base?
Yes, thank you everybody for joining us on this journey. I hope today's show was like your first taste of spice. Mildly euphoric, slightly addictive, and leaving you wanting more.
Okay.
I certainly want more of that. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone watching as well, so remember, for a chance to get
I don't know about
to
any of that.
any
I
of the
mean,
future closed beta tests, head on over to
I would like a
duneawakening.com
little
and
bit
sign
more
up for the
information,
beta.
but I
Then
think
head
what
on
they're
over to
probably
Steam
trying to
and
do is
wishlist the game. You can also join our Discord and
wait.
follow our
Oh,
other
okay.
socials at Dune
So you could sign up
Awakening.
for the beta
Also, of
on the
course, you can
website.
keep up to date on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where we will be showcasing regular sneak peeks into the world of Dune Awakening.
Okay.
Now, here is the moment that I'm pretty sure everyone has been waiting for. Let's
Okay,
take
what
a
we
look
got?
at brand new gameplay trailer for Dune Awakening.
Nice. Let's see some gameplay. That's it. That's what we want to see. We want to see some gameplay. Captured using Unreal Engine 5.2. Let's see what we got.
Few survive it.
Caves. Okay. Look pretty good. There's the Sandworm. I mean, that looks a lot like, you know, I'm getting 2016 Citizen Con flashbacks already. Okay, we got laser mining. I mean, laser mining, okay. I'm not even gonna say anything, laser mining. Okay, there's the base building. Looks pretty good. Sand bike. Clips going down. Showing some environments. I guess that's like, wait a minute, let me go back here for a second. What is that? I guess they're infiltrating some base. Okay, so this. I guess there's some kind of salvage, maybe? Perhaps this game has salvage? Aerial combat. Okay, the blue eyes. More base building. Okay, I think they're really trying to sell the base building. That looks like some kind of large-scale battle.
Arrakis is a test. Few survive it. But the humans that do.
They look like Fremen. Okay, very interesting. Okay, so like they said, you know, you can sign up for the beta on the website, wishlisted on Steam. That was very interesting. I don't know. Are you guys excited for this game? I know that there are a lot of fans of the movie. There are a lot of fans of the books, and the potential to, you know, exist in the Dune universe and play with your friends. That's going to be very attractive to a lot of people. And as a huge fan of sci-fi, I want to see more good sci-fi games. I want to see more sci-fi MMOs because, you know, most people that think about MMOs, they think about fantasy games, you know, WoW and stuff like that. But an MMO is just a massively multiplayer online game. So you can have those sci-fi games, you can have, you know, Grand Theft Auto Online. I want the genre to expand. I want people to look at MMOs and say, okay, we're gonna create this world and we're gonna make that an MMO. We're gonna take this world and we're gonna make that an MMO. Give people some options. You know, regular single player games, there's a lot of variety in there, but I feel like there's not a lot of variety when it comes to MMOs. They're mostly almost always fantasy games. So I am excited about this game because it's a sci-fi MMO. and you know, you guys, I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, so I'm interested in this game. You know, I still have a lot of questions. I feel like they didn't answer a ton in this video, but you know, we do have some information. There's faction gameplay, there's a survival game, there is crafting, there is base building, there is a player marketplace, there is that type of political progression, there are mission givers in the game, there are skills and traits that you can set when you make your character, there is PvP areas, there are sandworms, there is weather. That is a good amount of information, and I'm sure they will, you know, continue to put out content and do other stuff. We saw that new gameplay trailer. I really don't know, you know, what can be taken from that trailer. You know, it just looks like a modern day AAA kind of game, but the depth, you know, is it going to be fun to play? We really don't know yet. We haven't seen enough. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you a Dune fan? Are you excited about this game? That's what I love about this channel, this community, is talking to you guys, so let me know. But that's going to be it for me here today, you guys. Cool little reaction video. But like I always say at the end of these videos, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute!